Hello, and welcome to another episode of Tech. Today, we're going to talk about beyond circular economy, the need to really drive on sustainable tech design. If you've been following along, we talked about sustainability many times on this podcast, and often I talk about sustainability with a sustainability chief officer. And today I am delighted because I have a designer. And in particular, I have Stacy Wolff, who is the global leader of design and sustainability at HP. What excites me about the conversation that we're about to have is that Stacy really has changed the way that the company has focused on design and sustainability. He's been really instrumental in restructuring the design team and changing the focus from a technology driven to a trend focused design, but also is been really integrating sustainability as a principle of design, which is something that I wish more tech companies, whether it's PCs or something else, really embraced. And with that, I want to welcome Stacy to the conversation.
Hi, how you doing?
Very good. Thank you for sparing the time. Today is Earth Day, and so it's exciting to talk about not just sustainability in tech, but how can we get from a tech perspective to the point where really sustainability is as core as everything else that we think about when we think about a product. And I want to start with something that maybe is a little bit obvious to you, but maybe not to the audience, which is, why is it so important? Why is it key that we start to think about sustainability as just a principle of design, like everything else that we consider?
I think it goes back to who we are. I think design in general is to make things better, to improve things, to optimize, and it's part of the design process. Obviously, within HP, that we put sustainability as an element of our development. And I think for me personally, I'm an avid fly fisherman, and I
Oh,
cherish the time where I can get away and be on the water. And it's one, I think if you spend that time alone and you're out there, you realize Earth or just nature in general is very fragile.
yeah.
And I travel quite a bit around the globe, and it's amazing, some of the things that you see. And I think for us in the design team here, we have a collective viewpoint, that is that we need to do things better in a more responsible way. And so we've made it part of our DNA. As we do development, we don't think of products without thinking sustainability.
So another maybe obvious question, but given the times we're in, I think one that I would like you to address. So contrary to popular belief, or maybe not popular, but very vocal belief, there is a way, in my opinion, to balance growth and innovation and be sustainable. And I think that I'm betting that you are feeling the same way, right? That you can have both. And also that not only customers are interested in it, but also prepared to pay for it.
Mhm. Yeah, I'll give you kind of a headline, and that is sustainability is good business. As simple as that. And that is when you do things right, you're rewarded. And for HP, not that long ago, we ventured into the world of using more responsible materials. And that is,
Mhm.
instead of using virgin materials, we started to use recycled materials that were recyclable. And so we've been recognized for that. In fact, our business performance has improved because of what we've done. And yes, sometimes sustainable materials can cost more, but if done in the right proportion, done in the right way, they're not unaffordable. They're very affordable. And in fact, once you start to make that transformation, what was once a premium turns into basically a commodity. So when
Right.
we started using recyclable material in our resin, this was at the very beginning, there was a premium. But in all of that, we started to change the industry because we started to use it. We started to make more products with it. And then instantly the plastic industry started to accommodate. And as we increase our percentages, they continue to refine and advance their resins. So it is one where we had to be brave enough to do it. And once we did it, we kind of changed an industry. It wasn't overnight. It took several years. But now if you want to go buy resin or aluminum or any of those materials, they would have been rare 4 or 5 years ago.
Right.
They're commonplace now, and a lot of it that's due to HP.
I think you're starting to answer the question that I want to go to
Okay.
next, which is really about some of the big challenges that you faced trying to implement sustainable design into your products. And I heard you say, one is commitment, right? It's not an issue that you solve, but you need to be committed to this because, to your point, maybe something initially is more expensive, but long term, you know that you're going to get a return. And then obviously you have to have vision. But what are some of the hurdles that you faced over your career as far as implementing sustainable designs?
Sure. I think sustainability is like any other challenge. It's hard at the beginning because you don't have a path. You have to find your way. And once you find your way or your formula, and then it becomes much easier. There are always going to be barriers. Every new product has a barrier of cost, a barrier of we don't have the technology yet. That's part of the design process. They don't give you all the pieces on the table and say, put it together. You have to go find those pieces. And then once you find those elements, then you have to put it together in the right way. So every design problem, there's a solution. It may take time. A lot of the things that we introduce or just introduced this year, they may have been 4 or 5 years in the making. We introduced the Spectre Fold, which is a really nice new product that has some new behaviors. But here I can talk about design, but what's unique about that is everything on it is using sustainable materials, the aluminum, the magnesium, everything there. And solving the first order principle on this is, we had to be responsible at the beginning with all the materials, and then we had to solve the problem. It's difficult, yes. And the prices are a challenge, yes. But you find a way. Yeah, it's really, I think, comes back to what is your goal? Our goal is to constantly improve, constantly advance what we make today for the next generation. And so it's the reality. It's hard.
Yeah.
Address it.
I agree with you. And I think that what you're saying about sustainability is also true for accessibility, in my view. And, if you're thinking about the future of computing, you cannot leave out accessibility and sustainability as part of, the characteristic of that future of computing. Let's talk circular economy, which sometime I have the feelings that it's thrown out there as a panacea of, let's do this and we're going to solve all issues. How do you think about circular economy and from a tech industry perspective? And so, anything from how you design and the products and the materials that you're using for design to then how you recycle and also the lifespan of the products that you bring into market.
Sure. It's a lot to unpack there because it is
Yes,
a
I know.
very, very big topic. I will say this is that we're designing not for one life, but multiple lives on all the products. And so what you have to think about is it's layers of new innovation that we have to bring. One, you have to create the product that is compelling enough for people to buy it. Number two is your materials that we've used have to be, one, sustainable, but number two is they have to be appropriate. That's just the first life. That's where we begin the journey. But what we have to design in, honestly, is the ability to get to the next life and the next life of the product. When we're developing products now, how will we disassemble it? It's not just making it. It's now, how can I extend the life? So a good example is, as we start to look at regulations that are coming on the horizon, in-user replaceable batteries is probably the paramount thing that we have to go solve for. We've designed technology to be these sealed vessels. And unfortunately, the sealed vessel doesn't allow for accessibility for the average user. Yep. And as that's on the horizon, we will change the way we do it. It doesn't mean the product's going to get thicker. It doesn't mean it's going to become less attractive. We have to get smarter. And it still may require tools. I didn't say toolless. And actually, I think people chase something that is almost trick in the sense of, oh, it's toolless. That may not be a better product because I want it to last longer. And as we go through that, it could be the replaceable battery. It could be replaceable motherboard. A lot of those things are designed up front. What's unique about our design team is I have designers, I have engineers. I lead sustainability for HP's personal systems group. And so within that, I have my sustainability team. So it's not one view, it's multiple views. And as we solve the problem, we're looking at it from different perspectives. As I look at designing for disassembly, how many steps? I think a lot of people count the wrong way. It's like, how many screws? It doesn't matter the number of screws. Although
if
that's
you can take them all off in one go, right?
If we can make it simple and easy and to some degree predictable, it's a good thing. The other thing too is, designing as simple as a connector. Replacing the motherboard is one thing. Replacing the connector on the motherboard may be a better thing. So again, I sum it up all as it's a design problem. Just like you want to develop a beautiful form, we need to think about a solution that we can build in an efficient way so that we have it, appropriate price and everything for the customer. But when it does have, I'll call it's done with its first life. It needs to come back to us and be serviced and be ready for its next life. And we can look at it in a couple different ways. In fact, HP has a program that we're doing now with, our service team, and it allows us to bring it back in and determine, is it just a matter of cleaning the image so that, your data that in the first life is taken away so it's clean? Or are we going to harvest some of the parts because maybe the case of it is no longer there, but the case then gets recycled? Or is everything disassembled into its various parts and then recycled? So again, it is really about planning ahead. One is, can I, get to those parts to repair it? That allows me to extend the life. If I want to bring it to another customer, if you will, or back to that customer. In a lot of our business today, most of the customers, certainly in our European kind of theater there, we tend to see them say, I want a percentage of the products you sell me to be products that I've owned. I want them improved. I want them advanced. Things like the battery, I want it replaced, and then bring it back to me. So again, we've been for several years now designing for multiple lives in the product. We've been operating that way. And I think it'll be the new economy. I think when you talk about a circular economy, it's really the new economy, and that's where we'll be.
And I think that, you mentioned European customers, and obviously from a regulation perspective, that they are a little bit ahead than we are here in the US. And so that proportion of pre-loved and used, technology is a requirement, right? And so, and it's going to become more and more that way. I was at the Intel Sustainability Summit a few weeks ago, and HP was one of the participants. And, critical to that summit that brought together a lot of the supply chain and the partners is really about how we need to come together as an industry. We need to collaborate, partners, suppliers, customers, to really address scope 3. Do you think that we can do that? Do you think that there's a way that the tech industry can really harness around instead of competing, but actually coming together to solve an issue?
I think the industry, one, has to, but number two, I think we are on that journey. I think there's a lot more sharing, willingness to participate. I think, as we look at the materials we use and the technology we employ, we're using many times the same stuff. And certainly as we look at whether it be Intel or other partners out there, how they operate, how they develop is equally as important as what we do in our own responsibility. And, when we speak to customers, we try to be as very, very transparent, right? Most of my presentations, we start with a pie chart of where does the carbon footprint lie. And I think it's very important for everybody to understand is where we're attacking the problem, how we're attacking the problem. I think a lot of people think, well, if you just change the recycled content of the surface, we solve it.
You're good.
No, it's a lot more. And so as we start to look at things, and I can't get into a lot of details, but in the next generation of product, we're looking at every level of component and that partnership of how can we improve it. It's one where I think we're all interconnected, and the more we realize it and I think operate in that cooperative way, we will achieve more things.
I agree. I think that some of the goals we might get to faster for sure if we all come together. You mentioned some of the kind of wins, if you like, that you had from materials perspective as you were talking about the Spectre Fold. I'm curious if there are other industries that you look at where either they're ahead or they're thinking differently that you think yourself and the tech industry can learn from.
Yes. So what's nice is within the design team, I'm going to reference because you see me on the screen, but there's many people on the design team that are constantly thinking in creative ways that are solving many of our problems. So we have a color, materials, and finish component to the design team, and they're a core to the materials we use. And in fact, the references that they bring to the table often transform how we look at things. So we do a lot of soft material. And what I mean by that is I think a lot of people think, well, you might be talking like a travel bag or something like that. I can, but we have a lot of products, whether it be in our poly organization or our PC organization, that uses speaker cloth. And we look to the kind of, if you will, the fashion industry, the fabrics that are being used, where people have transformed, right? Whether it's a shoe company, I won't try to go through a bunch of names or brand names, but using references. And with those companies, we understood, oh, you can take PET and you can weave it. And what we did though is we took materials that we brought in from a waste stream, spun it into, if you will, thread, and then turned it into acoustic fabric. That wasn't easy to do. But the thing about it is that, we're very excited because we kind of ventured out of what I'll call it the traditional material story of a PC world and moved into a little bit of a hybrid or a fashion world. And so, and these fabrics have to stretch and expand. It sounds like I'm talking about something you wear, but it's not. It's something that is integral to the creation of the product. And so, we, to your point, we reference a lot of other industries. We've looked at things. I can kind of cite, it almost sounds like I'm making a fruit plate when I start talking about some of the different materials. It's like, oh, this was made from pineapple. Oh, okay. So we have some fun with it, because it's very exciting to use new materials that are different and apply them in different ways. And it's a lovely story when you sit down with your customers. It's a little bit of guess what that's made of. And in our all-in-ones, as an example, we use coffee. And everybody, the immediate thing is when they see it, they want to scratch and sniff. And it's not a scratch and sniff game. But it is one where it is, one thing that I think always happens is you have to help the end user, the customer, understand that their material that they have in their product is special. And it's difficult when you use, let's say, recycled resin. It looks just like virgin resin. And so we took the liberty of putting a small portion of coffee grounds that allows that resin to still be recycled, but it's as we would refer to it, it's got speckles, and those speckles are very exciting because when you look at it, it's like, oh, what is that? And then you say it's coffee, and then they're like, you got to be kidding me! You made a all-in-one out of coffee? Yes, we did. And there's other materials that we're experimenting with. But, to me, that's part of the game is it's doing the percentages to remove that waste, but at the same time to use some of it in a new, unique way that also helps you with the story. Let's be honest, as a customer, we all love stories. We are intrigued by the nature of surprise. And so, sprinkling a little coffee grounds in, it's quite magical.
And I think aside from the story, it also obviously allows you to tackle some of the limitations that recycled material has had for so many years, right? Where maybe there's a limit on the number of colors and the type of colors that you can use for, a cover or a bag or whatever it is that you're making. And in doing so, you are helping the choice of the consumers, especially, right, that is, doesn't want just black and white. They might want different colors.
Correct. Yeah.
I can talk to you for hours, but we are already running out of time. But before I let you go, I have one more question, which is really looking at the future and hearing a little bit, what are you most excited about when it comes to design and sustainability? I swear if we get to the end of this and you don't say AI, I just did it. It would be the first podcast in 6 months that does not mention AI. So I don't know if AI is on your roster of,
It is. I'll say this is I've been in the business quite a while, and there's always inflection points. AI will obviously be an inflection point, but when I spoke recently, most of the speakers talked about AI. I didn't speak of AI. I spoke of another, acronym, if you will, and that was SI. We talked about sustainable impact. And so, for us, am I excited about AI? Sure. It is transformational, but at the same time, there'll be yet another invention and there'll be another, I'll call it step in technology. But we're very focused about doing products that are, I'll call it responsible, products that excite the customer, instill some level of passion. We are, trying to do, I think, the right thing on multiple levels. It is one where I think when I've talked, we talked about coffee, but when we set out our goals for the coming years, it's like, what are we going to do new? What are we going to do that really is one transformational? So we talked about the circular economy. We are very much designing for a product that I'll give you a term of what I've given as a goal to the design group. Our goal is to design a forever PC, and that is that it can live on and on and on. And that forever PC is probably not achievable, but it's a North Star. Right. And it's something that allows us to seek something better than what we have. So, AI, I think, is a component, and it allows us to think differently. We use a lot of, I'll call it the engines out there to, ideate with. But
Yes.
at the end of the day, it doesn't replace, I think, the creative mind. And so when we start to look to the future, and what I'm excited about is when I bring the next generation of designer in that's wanting to do the next big thing. That is really what is exciting to me. Is I look a little bit older, certainly when I look into the camera, but I can tell you, as long as I don't look into a mirror or look into a camera, I still feel like I'm in my 20s. And that's because we're always doing new and exciting things, and it's the youth that
Yeah.
is around us. And I think that's something that we all need to appreciate, is that it's that youth that's going to take us forward.
I couldn't agree more. The next generation, both of designer on one side, IT leaders on the other, that think about the world in different way and prioritize this thing differently too. Sustainability matters much more from a customer perspective to the younger generation than not my generation. So I'm excited as much as you are. We are at time. Our conversation ends here, but people can find you on LinkedIn, social media. Where can they find you to continue the conversation?
Sure. You'll see me on LinkedIn. I think what we're talking with some of the folks at HP. So stay tuned. Maybe we can come back to you. We're trying to get some more social posts so that it'll be a little bit easier to see the story. We definitely have, I think, some good things to share. So we're trying to establish a better platform to get that message out.
That's awesome. Thank you so much for your time today. Really appreciate the conversation.
Thank you.